Hello, how are you? So today, when you experience something in your life and you're like, this is probably happening somewhere, right? So I wanted to actually talk about health because I was at a webinar. It was so good, how to say no when people are trying to shove cake in your face. If you're Bukharian, you know what I'm talking about. um, but again, my life experiences lead me in a different direction. Okay, so lately I've been posting on my page, how do you forgive? How do you deal? I'm obviously going through things, but without going into detail, I was really, really struggling with this concept. And even though I read a lot of books and I have a lot of, tap into a lot of things that inspire me and whatnot, just really, really found myself in a very dark place. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a really bad place. So today I was talking to a friend, and she was actually dealing with something very similar in terms of, dealing with life experiences. And she told me when she was 12 years old, her father and her mother split. And it was basically her mom left with her and her 3 siblings. She was the oldest. She was 12. The youngest was, like 2. And her mom didn't have a trade. She didn't have a job. She didn't have a skill. She didn't even have English. But she left because, for whatever reason, she just couldn't be in that relationship anymore. I didn't ask details. And so, where my mind went, which probably some of you are thinking the same thing, how did you feel about your dad? Because she was telling me, she wasn't really talking about her dad so much, she was telling me how, at 12 she worked in a bagel shop to make $4.50 an hour to help her mom and support the kids. How she spoke about how, she had to grow up really fast. And I was like, were you angry? Because it looks to me like your mom left, right? She wouldn't leave with no language, no skills, with 4 kids and no income if things were, good. And they were bad because, maybe her husband, this girl's father, wasn't behaving in a way that a father and husband behaves, let's say, that she couldn't stay in the marriage. And this woman tells me, she's now a woman, she tells me, I wasn't angry with my dad. I was like, really? Like, you had to grow up at 12 years old. Like, you had to help support your mom, and you weren't angry? I mean, I'm angry for you. And she's like, I was grateful that I had a mom who was so strong. And in that moment, I realized something really, really amazing. She chose to put her energy and her focus into her mother, into the growth in her life, because her mother was the growth in her life, and her father may have necessarily not been that person. Had she focused on him and his actions that were like perhaps, limiting her and whatever you want to call it, she was struggling or whatever. I mean, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Had she focused on him, her conversation would have been, I was angry. I was bitter. I was hurt. But she wasn't saying those things because she focused on her mom with words like, she showed me who is a strong woman. She showed me how to be strong in tough situations. What does all this mean? To me, it means, just like in that book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I love that book, guys. I have it in my bag. I don't really read it, but I just feel comforted that it's in my bag. Just like in that book, it says, man doesn't really search to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. He searches for meaning in his struggles. What she did, she found meaning in her struggle. She found an opportunity to see something good. She saw her mother and her growth in that whole situation. And I realized whatever I was focusing on in my own personal struggle was, in that moment, my choice. I was choosing to focus on my pain in what was hurting me. Don't ask me why I'm holding a green crayon, okay, guys? This is what I'm writing with, okay? Because I have notes. She focused on, the growth, on the fact that, and I told her, aren't you resentful that you had to work at a young age? Like, you didn't have your childhood, you just had to grow up real fast. She's like, no, that was my life, and I'm grateful that I had experiences in my life that shaped me. And I was so blown away, because whatever I'm going through right now, whatever struggle you're going through right now, this is our experiences that will shape us if we choose to let it shape us. Had she chosen to let the situation stifle her and anger her and keep her in a very bitter place emotionally, she wouldn't have been able to grow. She wouldn't have been able to appreciate, how is this a learning experience? What is the meaning behind all this? And for myself, whatever resentment I'm holding onto, by the way, I asked Siri, what is resentment? And she said, resentment is bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. Then I said, what is forgiveness? Forgiveness, as a verb, is stop to feel angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Stopping that feeling. How do we stop that feeling that we need to forgive? We stop it by having a focus, not on what we're resentful towards, but on what we're growing towards, what we're grateful towards. And just like I had mentioned earlier, that the plant moves towards the light to grow, so too we have to move towards the growth to grow. We have to move towards the light in our life. Like in her life, her mother was her light. In your life, who is your light? In my life, same. We have to focus on those people who have actions, who exemplify strength, not the people who are they're not in the growth space. And you know what? They're on their own path. They're on their own path to figuring it out. And it's not our responsibility to hold on to that pain. It's not our obligation to make sure that because they wronged us in some real way, we should hold on to that anger to make sure they know how they made us feel. Why would we do that? Why do I do that? I do that because I like to be right. And because you're wrong, I now feel this way, to make you feel how you did this to me. But what am I doing? I'm trying to have power. I'm giving up my power. I'm giving up my power when I say things like, I can't forgive you. I can't. Why? Because I'm holding on to that resentment. When we let go of that resentment, we learn to really grow and forgive. So, the takeaway from all of this is, if you want to grow, you need to focus on the things that help you grow. There are people in your life, in my life, that are focused on the growth. And there will always be people who are still figuring out their world. And they're still in the space where the garbage is, and they smell because they're around all that garbage. They don't even know how badly they reek. And you're angry at them for being in that space. But why? They need to figure it out. We can't drag them to where it's a beautiful meadow. They need to find that space on their own when they're ready. When they're ready. Even though they stink and you don't want to be around them. And I'm not talking about physically, guys, right? Metaphorically. Even though they really, really reek, we just need to be in the meadow ourselves and try to grow into our better selves. Because if we're around them too much, around the people who stifle us, what happens? We end up stinking too. We don't grow from those people. We don't grow when we're trying to help the people who are not mentally there in the growth mindset. We're shrinking alongside with them. It's like when you put a rotten apple with a good apple. The good apple is not going to make the rotten apple any better, but the opposite probably will happen, right? Where the rotten apple gets the good apple a little more rotten. So it's really important to surround yourself with people who are building and growing with you. And this girl, my friend in today, really, really helped me. So I don't think she watches. But if she does, thank you. All right, guys. Have a wonderful night. I so enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for listening to me. And I hope you gained something from it, because if you watched it, there was a message behind it for you. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.